afternoon, everyone. This is Ceren İskit, and you are watching What's News. What's News. As today we will speak about President Erdogan's visit to Iraq after a hiatus of 13 years. President Erdogan's arrival in Iraq signals a pivotal moment in Turkish far-reaching implications for regional stability and cooperation. Throughout our conversation today, we will discuss the key aspects of Erdogan's visit, from the signing of 26 bilateral agreements to the discussions surrounding critical issues such as security, infrastructure, development, and water source management. Our esteemed guest, Aydın Selcen, brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the table, offering invaluable insight into the intricacies of Turkish-Iraqi relations and the broader geopolitical landscape in the Middle East. Let me invite him. Welcome, Mr. Selcen.
Thank you, Ceren. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for joining us. I know your schedule is very tight, and you accepted my invitation for this discussion for the YouTube debate. Thanks very much for joining us. As you know, Erdogan's visit was very important for Turkey and Turkish and Iraqi relations. I would like to first start with my first question, that after a 13 year is being hailed as historic across the globe, what significance does this visit hold? Could you provide an analysis for that, please?
Well, actually, it's also a little bit personal for me, I might say, because it's been over a decade now since I quit the government service. But when at the time I was Turkey's first consul general in Erbil in 2012, Mr. Erdogan, at the time he was the prime minister, of course, because we were still at the parliamentarian regime. He was the first Turkish prime minister to ever visit Erbil, where I was. So it was a historical moment then, as Erbil was decorated, as this time again also, with Turkish flags. So yes, it's been 13 years. Perhaps, as you are right to draw the attention of our viewers, it is interesting to note that although there are such close relations between Baghdad and Ankara, or complex relations, perhaps, multi-layered relations, well, it has been so long since the last time Erdogan had time to visit Baghdad. So for that matter, yes, it's again, as was then, today also, it may be deemed as historical, but content-wise, I believe we will discuss the content later on. So the three legs, so to speak, of this visit was one, the dry channel project from the Basra port to the Turkish border. The other was the increasing of the or deepening or widening of the Turkish-Iraqi cooperation on security matters, and that means security matters means combating terrorism together, PKK terrorism actually. And the third one was, I guess, this large plethora of various agreements, memoranda, deals that were concluded between the two sides. And that's also mostly on cultural, educational, perhaps commercial matters, the rest.
By the way, I would like to share, audience can ask any question. They can drop their questions to the chat box, so we will be able to answer about it. I would like to first begin with the actually great development road project. Turkey has now also committed for that. This project revolves around two main axes, a railway and a highway between Great for ports in the Persian Gulf and Turkey's southern border. Considering especially the security situation in the region, how realistic do you find this implementation of this project?
I'm not basically against any such enterprise. To try something new, yes, it does matter. But as your question entails in itself, whether it's realistic or not, or even if it's realistic, what will be the timeline? That will be perhaps the question to answer. Because yes, we understand that Iraqis developed their Basra port together with the Koreans, with the Korean loans and Korean, I believe, technology. Okay, that is good. And the second point is Iraq is a net, of course, is an exporter of crude oil. And most of that crude oil is produced in Basra, Basra region or the Basra province of Iraq. But most of that oil goes to either China or India when it's exported by Basra, and it's just by the seaside. So it's very advantageous trade for Iraq. And it is the base, of course, it's the basis of all Iraqi revenues. Actually, Iraq does not produce anything else or does not sell anything else, and it sits on top of a huge oil wealth. So to speak, if we take Basra as a, just theoretically, of course, hypothetically, as a standalone, let's say, like an emirate in the Persian Gulf, or Basra Gulf, as we call it in Turkish, it may be an equivalent to or to Qatar, Bahrain, or Kuwait, or perhaps the UAE, or even it might be on its own more wealthier than those. So this project involves the pipeline. There is already a pipeline from Kirkuk in the north, Kirkuk to the Turkish Ceyhan port, and it also takes the Iraqi Kurdistan region's oil, that pipeline, and it is stopped for a while as Turkey or Ankara protested against the final decision of the arbitrage court in Paris, the International Commercial Court in Paris, and Ankara refused to pay the indemnities arising from that court case. So it remains closed for the time being. And at the same time, Iraqis are repairing the main dual pipeline from Kirkuk to Mosul and Mosul to the port, because in the meantime, as it was damaged during the ISIS times after 2014, Iraqi Kurdistan region had built its own bypass additional pipeline, which carried Kirkuk's and Kurdistan's oil. So it remains to be seen what will be the further development on that side. There were rumors that that pipeline was already repaired and it would be operational simultaneously with President Erdogan's visit. That did not happen. So that pipeline will go down to Basra and will carry, according to this development road or dry channel project, it will carry the crude oil, hypothetically, from Basra to the Mediterranean Turkish port of Ceyhan. But does it make sense? I do not know, because, you know, those deals are made for long-term basis, which means that Iraq has already, Iraq has some deals with China and India. So will there be additional oil to send to the north? That is a question mark, and quite a big question mark. And the other thing is, of course, Iraq can increase its oil production, but if it does so, then it will be perhaps against the consensus reached in the OPEC, because that will push the price of the barrel down, which will not be beneficial for Iraq. So how Iraq is going to benefit from that pipeline? It's quite a long-term endeavor. The highway, it already exists from Basra to Baghdad and to the north. And then there is the talk of a new railroad. For that, for those to be operational, you would need two things. First, then this Basra port will be a hub in international trade. How can it be so? I mean, who will carry what through Basra in order to make what kind of benefits? So whether, I mean, so the goods coming from China, India, the Far East, will they transit from Basra? Does it make any financial sense? I'm not quite convinced. But again, I mean, basically, I'm not against, but I remain to be convinced on that matter. The other thing is you would need stability and security along the way, along all the way, not only in and around Basra. To the north, when you reach the southern outskirts of Baghdad or Karbala and that region, there you will have militia forces like Hashd-e-Shabi, depending on Iran's or Tehran's whim. That's a question from the stability and security angle. To the north of Baghdad, then you will have the remnants of ISIL there still. So the question, as it is discussed here in Turkey, is not whether PKK constitutes a threat to that road project or that right channel project, because it's quite far-fetched. If you look at the map, I mean, PKK is on the Kandil mountain, and then to the north of that area in Avashin-Basyan region, Gara, Metina, Hakurk, Haftanin, that region, which is the northeastern triangle of Iraq. But these other elements, ISIL's or these militia forces, or even the internal political turmoil, the ongoing turmoil in Iraq, will not allow, I believe, that project to go forward very fast, because you would need again some credit lines, loans. Well, maybe World Bank can be interested. According to the news here after the visit, I came across some bits of information that already United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are also interested in developing that. But that is actually a rival project to already existing Saudi and Emirati projects. But yes, Emiratis are in a way a world power in running or managing these sorts of hubs, harbors, ports. So they may be interested for that, but still it will take not years but decades to come to see these projects to come to fruition, and also for Iraq, for Baghdad to reach some sort of or any sort of political stability. Again, I'm afraid it will take not years but decades.
I see. Yes, especially security concern is, I think, the main key subject for that. We will follow it, and they are planning on 2030. I think if it goes well with the
2030, I believe. I'm sorry to interrupt, but 2030 it means already 5 to 6 years from now.
Yes.
It's quite an optimistic estimate by my count, but well, maybe in, so to speak, in ceteris paribus conditions, laboratory conditions, yes, on paper, on the blueprints, when you look at the blueprints, perhaps it's a project that will take 5 to 6 years, but in an environment like this, in a security, political and financial environment like this, I think it will take over a decade or more even.
We have a question actually came from our audience. I would like to add Ferhat asked, in this moment, would Iraq visit be near for Turkey in order to rebuild its image? And in addition to this, what would Kurdish people future be like according to this recent developments, he asked.
Well, Iraq is a federation. I started to actually, my first tour of duty in Iraq was between 23 to 26. That was in Baghdad. Second time I've been there, it was in Erbil from 2010 to 2013, actually. So the first time around, I was quite, I had a first row seat in the writing of the drafting of the new Iraqi constitution, and Iraq became a federation, and they voted overwhelmingly for this new constitution. And it has a region, it's called Iraqi Kurdistan region. But the internal borders of the Iraqi Kurdistan region are not officially accepted yet, because Kirkuk is an issue, and the temporary 114th article of the constitution actually deals with that issue. But recently, the relations between, not only between Erbil and Baghdad soured, but also between Süleymaniye and Erbil also soured, I mean, the relations. So Iraqi Kurds depend more, or Iraqi Kurdistan region depend more on Baghdad today than ever before. The ill-fated independence attempt, the referendum in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, was turned out to be a political and diplomatic mistake for Iraqi Kurdistan region, and they had secured some gains when ISIS was kicked out of the country, but they lost those against an Iran-dominated Baghdad, and then PUK, the Süleymaniye side, Talabani side, kind of switched sides, and they have much better relations with Baghdad and Tehran than Erbil or KDP. KDP, in its turn, has much better relations with Ankara than PUK. So in this kind of environment, Iraqi Kurds' future looks bleaker than yesterday. So they have to kind of get their act together and build their joint administration, but they are not going towards a better union, but they are going towards a kind of a separation or a divorce, even perhaps. So, but the relations with Turkey, especially on the KDP side, is one of the elements or factors that keep Iraqi Kurdistan afloat, and it's in Iraqi Kurdistan's interest, of course, to have good relations with Ankara, which they do, especially KDP, and PUK is trying to get back in the picture. It remains to be seen if Wafel Talabani, the actual leader of PUK, can reach an understanding with Ankara. But also, like KDP, PUK has its own internal issues, as reflected in the PUK side between Wafel and Lahore Talabani. There is a power struggle. So there are too many moving parts, I'm afraid, to be able to predict clearly what will happen next month, 6 months from now, or next year.
Yes, speaking about regionally, security remains a primary concern during Erdogan's visit. Turkey has been engaged in a long-standing battle against PKK. For those unfamiliar, PKK stronghold is in the Kandil Mountains on the Iraq-Iran border, which much of the territory falling within the jurisdiction of Erbil. As of December, the PKK has begun to be designated as a banned organization, yet Turkey and Iraq still seem to differ in their stance towards the PKK. What could be the reason for this discrepancy, you think?
Well, first of all, legal description-wise, Iraq was not able to declare PKK as outlaw, but a Security Council declared PKK as banned, or sort of as if they declare someone a diplomat, like persona non grata. But Iraq, first of all, PKK does not constitute a security priority for Baghdad. Second, Iraq does not have capacity, a security capacity, or military capacity, technical capacity to combat PKK, and it has other priorities. And then Ankara's approach on that matter, I believe, is based on a structural contradiction. What I mean is, because as Turkish armed forces are inside Iraq in an ongoing, since decades, since early 90s, in an ongoing counterinsurgency operation, it needs a weak Baghdad to be able to continue that military presence. At the same time, Ankara asks for a strong Baghdad to contribute to its counterterrorism operations or counterinsurgency operations inside Iraq. There is a contradiction there. And also, Turkey's, Ankara's main partner is Erbil, KDP, and KDP-Baghdad relations are very tense now. KDP even declared that they're not going to take part in the upcoming elections. So for that matter, although Ankara is not obliged to take sides between Erbil and Baghdad, or between Erbil and Süleymaniye, or between Baghdad and Tehran, yes, but still it needs to stand alongside Erbil in order to continue its military presence and its counterinsurgency operations. Whether those operations need to extend, I mean, strategically speaking, even further towards the south, towards the east, to the Kandil Mountain, that's totally a different matter. If you ask my humble opinion, as PKK does not constitute an existential threat any longer to Turkey, and inside Turkey there is no longer violence, I have a hard time to understand why the borders, our borders, need to be defended beyond the borders, inside 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers of Iraq, or the same logic goes for Syria. So the borders can be effectively and efficiently protected along the borders. But that's another debate, of course. It's not today's debate. It's going to continue for years to come, I believe, inside Turkey.
Thanks for that, because my question was about during the visit of Erdogan. Actually, he was expecting a cooperation with Iraq for this matter, because he said that he is planning an operation during this summer against PKK, and he expected Iraq to be backed on this matter as well in cooperation. But as it seems, because he gave an interview for the press during the time he was on the way back to Turkey, it doesn't seem that he gained what he expected from this visit. What is your thoughts on that as well?
This visit was quite diligently prepared. A month or so before, the foreign minister Fidan, defense minister Güler, and the national intelligence chief Kalın were in Baghdad to prepare the visit. And even after that visit, there was the talk of a joint operation cell that would be created with Iraq. But again, I mean, Iraq, Baghdad does not have that capacity. Technically, it doesn't have. Militarily, technically, it does not have that capacity. And also politically, as within the Iraqi armed forces, there are different armed forces responding to different political bosses. As inside the Iraqi intelligence, there are different branches answering again to various bosses. So it is very difficult to cooperate with Iraq. So it ends up always paying lip service to that kind of aims, and then effectively on the ground, operationally, there is not much to talk about. But I mean, it was expected to happen that way. But like time and again here in Turkey, there is this media hype whenever this sort of visit is announced and then prepared and then happens. There is always this media hype, and then when there are rising expectations, the disappointment also is so important, like the rising expectations. Well, there is not much to be done on that front, on the security front between Baghdad and Ankara.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. Well, we're now coming to an end. I don't want to take your time too much as well. There was, because you explained the pipelines, I'm not going to dig in again the same topic, same matter, but there is another key issue during Erdogan's visit. It's Iraq's pressing concern regarding the quantity of water flowing from Euphrates and Tigris rivers. In recent times, there's a climate crisis now as well. Like Turkey is explaining this situation like this, but Iraq has a huge expectation on this matter. How do you evaluate that? They made an agreement for 10 years now for the water sources as well. But how will it be planned, you think?
The water issue is around between Baghdad and Ankara since decades. For a simple reason, because Turkey sits, as you indicated, upriver on top of the water when it comes to Euphrates and Tigris. And Turkey has every right to build, of course, these dams, energy projects, social projects and agricultural projects around these series of dams that it has built over the years on Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And on the other side, in downriver in Syria and in Iraq, there is so much spoiling of these waters, and there is too little concrete projects. First, as it is agreed during this visit, that bit was quite concrete to my mind, according to my read, because Turkey asks for statistical data and concrete projects and enterprises to stop the spoiling of these waters. Then, once those steps are taken and those information is provided by Baghdad, then it is open to cooperation. But the water issue will be around. The two countries are actually mutually complementary. Turkey has water, Iraq has oil, and Iraq is always one, if not the biggest market of Turkey. Turkey exports construction material, pharmaceutical products, agricultural products, food and agricultural products, and also it is one of the main competitors when it comes to construction projects inside Iraq, from north to the south. So a lot can be made between the two countries, but politically and for these security matters, not much can be expected to happen from today to tomorrow. On water, Turkey will wait for Baghdad to come up with some concrete data and projects. When it comes to Kirkuk-Ceyhan pipeline, that once Iraq completes its the restoration of the pipeline, and the court decision of the Paris International Commercial Court's arbitrage decision will be an Iraqi issue for that pipeline to function again. That is Ankara's standpoint, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe they are right. It's an Iraqi issue. It should be once and for all resolved between Baghdad and Erbil. But the delicate political question then will be whether how much Ankara should support Erbil, because I believe personally that it is in Ankara's interest to stand alongside Erbil, and Ankara does not need to make a choice. It will be an artificial choice to make between Erbil and Baghdad, or between Erbil and Süleymaniye, or for that matter, between Baghdad and Tehran.
Thank you for joining me today, Mr. Selcen. I think we had a very insightful discussion today. Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add before we close this discussion?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, yes, there are a lot of matters to be discussed, especially with this Erdogan's visit. For the coming days, we will definitely follow it closely. And if there are any kind of developments happen, I will definitely discuss it with our distinguished guest. Well, this is Friday. I'm wishing you a wonderful weekend, but during that time, please do not forget to subscribe my channel, like my videos, and please do share your feedback. It is very important for me. Till then, have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.